Kristen, I lied. You might need to.
Oh, I'm planning on it. Don't worry.
You're all set. Are you
I know it's live. That's what I did.
You're right, Kathy.
I'm glad you enjoyed mine.
That is a gap.
Well, we do that. It's not run by Sunday school.
Thank you.
But sometimes when you walk up the stairs and there's nobody visible, like that's there, but that's not here.
Just say no.
Yeah,
Right there. Everything you say.
I don't know, but you gave you for a
Number one. I'm not aware of anybody.
What are 3 things we do that provide a simple,
I know
us
that's
and
right.
serve our internal
When Sunday school finished,
Why would
that
members
that
of
really
the
changed the Phyllis left immediately. We didn't make a detour entry, but right up there,
All right.
raise the greeter at the.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Loud enough? Not
Yes.
so loud I'm blowing you away, but loud enough you can hear me in the back? Okay. Thank you for carving out time today. We're doing something a little bit different. Hopefully your chairs of your teams reached out to let you know, forwarded a very long explanatory email from me, or hopefully, if you're lucky, your chairs abbreviated it and didn't make you read the whole thing. We are grateful for your time today. We're organizing a little bit differently, and that's part because we're doing something in reflection to what we've already done in these team meetings. So one of the things we're doing slightly different today is we're going to stay all together. We're not going to go into separate teams. So we're going to have a conversation all together. We're going to, what we realized going through the first couple of these meetings was that we were gathering, saying you were going to get into team meetings to get something done, and by the time we got you there, you weren't able to get anything done. It was just, we were lying to you. So we decided to stop lying to you and work together. The other reason for that is in part because what we wanted to do was to actually interrupt the way you normally did things. So we're trying to get us to think all together so all the teams are swimming in the same direction, not all in our own silos, doing our own thing and hoping the rest of the church might notice that we're doing something. Rather, we think the only way really to give our church a fighting chance as we move into this new future, this new reality together, is that we get on the same page and the same interstate and all head the same direction. And so that's the intent. So today, we're not going to have Zoom breakouts. We're going to have everyone on the live stream. And so if you're joining us by way of the live stream, you should know that Shazia is manning the chat feature. And so as we go through this, if you have comments or questions, you can chat on the live stream, and Shazia will respond to you and relay questions and comments to me so that we can include the whole group. Emilia wanted me to make sure you all know there are still plenty of sandwiches, so feel free to get up, get a drink, get more food as we have this conversation. It is a conversation, less me just standing up here trying to tell you what to do, okay? I am going to set the conversation up like this, though, as I say that. I'm going to give you a second sermon right now. It's not that long. Barbara cannot help herself. Oh, my. Oh.
I love the first one.
Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but does anybody else want to give me compliments on the sermon? Okay. The theme, as we've done this, we've tried to focus on a different big picture theme each time we've met, right? So does anybody remember what the first theme was? Education. Betty got it right away, Sierra, so I don't know, maybe. Education. Do you remember what the second thing was? Stewardship. We talked about stewardship, particularly talking about how will we be stewards of our building in the years to come, and had a conversation around that. Today, our theme is community. You have on your tables a sheet that hopefully you've been working through with the other folks at your table, thinking and talking about community. We're going to come back to that and have a whole conversation. But I want to set this up by talking about the idea of, and we've talked about this in the past, but I want to go into it just a little bit again to get our heads thinking this direction, about the difference between being a welcoming church and being an inviting church. Do you remember this conversation? Welcoming versus inviting. So, what's the difference in your mind between the phrase, "You're welcome to come," and the phrase, "I want you to come"?
You welcome someone when they get there, but invite them, you're getting them in. You're getting into the welcoming voice.
Yeah. So you're welcoming is what happens when they get there, maybe, but inviting is how you actually get them there. Sierra?
No, I was going to say inviting, you're taking an action to
Yeah.
get them there. Welcoming is just kind of like throwing it out there in the open.
Yeah, let me put this, these two phrases in a different context. It's like, imagine I'm going to talk for you, Howard, but imagine Howard and I are having this conversation. I say, "Oh, Howard, I heard you're throwing a party Friday night." And Howard says, "Oh, yeah, it's just going to be a few friends. You're welcome to come."
No.
It's different than I say, "Oh, Howard, I heard you're throwing a party Friday night," and Howard says, "Oh, yeah, I am. You should come. I want you there." The difference and I'm overselling it, right? I'm doing it hyperbolically, but the difference between telling our community they're welcome here, which every church in our city does, and inviting them to be here because we want them here, is that same visceral, emotional reaction you feel when someone says to you, because they don't really want you there, "You're welcome to come if you want," versus, "I really want you there. Come be a part of it." So I'm hoping by talking about it this way, that we're beginning to get our heads around what it means to be inviting and what it means to see ourselves as part of a wider community. Because part of what I want us to focus on today isn't just the way in which we individuals invite people, but by the way, we should stop and acknowledge Myra. I know you're here. There you are. How did you come to First Baptist Church?
Kent Hill and Bob Gill.
Kent Hill and Bob Gill invited you.
Working at Wasson with me, found out I had gone to a Baptist church and went, "Oh my goodness, I go to a Baptist church, you should try us out."
An invitation. Bob Gill and Kent Hill invited, and Myra's been here ever since. Sierra, how about you? How did you get here?
I taught first grade with Kristen. Like, how long? 9 years ago. But we didn't start coming to church until she invited me to bring the kids to praise camp.
These aren't plants. I'm just pointing out. But I appreciate that you really did work inviting me.
Kristen invited me to come to praise camp,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay. And then we loved it, and we
The
stayed.
kiddos came, and then they came to Praise Camp Sunday, and they've been coming ever since. That's the story for many of us in this room, right? Rick and Lisa, Roland and Claire.
Yep.
Right? I'm here because Hartzell invited me as head of the search team. It's true for many of us. And what I want us to start to think about is beyond the individual, which is important, don't get me wrong. Beyond the individual, how are we working to be inviting as a singular entity within a larger community, the downtown area? If we were to go poll our downtown area, what would they say about First Baptist Church?
Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it? Kristen said, where is it? If they know something, what would they say about us? Would it be crickets? Would they go, I don't know?
I heard, "What a beautiful building."
What a beautiful building. Would it be nice if they said first, "Oh, their congregation is so great, and they happen to worship in a nice building."
But they're Baptists.
But they're Baptists. But I hear that one a lot, and I'm the pastor. But you're Baptist. I don't know, man. Yeah. Have you ever been ever moved to a new neighborhood, been the new neighbor in a neighborhood, and then had nobody welcome you to the neighborhood? Ever had that happen? Ever been the neighbor who took cookies to the neighbor who no one else was inviting or being welcoming to? The difference it makes to the way they feel received. We have an opportunity as a congregation to begin to think not just today about our internal community, the people in this room and the people who are worshiping with us today, the internal community. We have an opportunity to begin to think about what and how we interact with our external community, okay? So, I do want to turn now to your work. I've set this up as much as I want to, and I want to turn and have conversation with you so we can hear from each other. So, the way this is going to work, it's a little bit chaotic. I know I have a microphone. I want you to just stay at your table, but I want you to speak loud and clear if you're going to speak for your table, okay? The Mevo that we're running the live stream through has an internal built camera, and so it can pick you up. So kind of speak loud enough, and if I feel like you're too far away or too soft, I'll repeat for you. Okay, so don't be offended when I do that. Okay, so turning to that sheet you have in front of you, I listed 3 questions that I was hoping, well, 3 complicated questions, but 3 questions that I was hoping your tables were able to dive into just a little bit as you were eating, and that we can continue some conversation here. What are the 3 things we do? What are 3 things that we do? Not the 3 things. There's not a right answer to this. I want to hear from you. 3 things that we do that provide a symbol of how we build up and bolster our internal community. Why did your table choose those 3 things? And why would you point at them as authentic of reflections of who we are as a church? Betty?
We talked about being inviting. It's one thing to be inviting. It's another thing, as you pointed out, to feel welcome. I think when we talked about here, what we do as a community in the church, the mingling before and after. The fact that we care that anybody who comes in new isn't the only one who gets greeted, but everybody is greeting everybody else. So the people who come in know that this is a community. Yeah, have you ever been to Betty saying that there's kind of a mingling that happens before and after the service? You know, today Shazia came up to me while the guitar group was already playing. You remember this? Came up to me while the guitar group was already playing, and she goes, "Do you think we should try to tell people to quiet down?" And I said, "Do you think it would help?" Yeah, I can get up there and go, "Will you please be quiet and let me talk for a second, people?" And everyone just keeps talking over me. So there is this kind of mingling that happens before and after. And if you've ever been in a church where only the guests get greeted, Kristen and I attended a church once where the first day, it was like new blood in the water, you know? It was like sharks. And before we knew it, we were being asked to teach Sunday school. And it was our first Sunday visit. We were overwhelmed and never went back, even though we felt like theologically the church was probably a pretty good fit for us. I saw Bill's hand up. Bill, what's your thought?
Just to piggyback on what Bill said. So the description of the feeling would be more like, it's like a family coming together on a Sunday morning, as opposed to a congregation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Bill said it feels like a family coming together on Sunday morning, as opposed to just a congregation. Correct. Chris, I saw your hand shoot up real quick.
Yes, I don't mean to get brownie points for this.
Oh, yeah.
But you mingling in the church before service. I had a friend come, "That's your pastor?" I said, "Yes." He greets everybody and walks around the church, and that helps us look like eternally.
Thank you. Yeah.
You got brownie points.
You did. I'm pretty sure Jesus loves you the most now.
And Dan gets to say who Jesus loves.
Building on that, if you're a visitor in a church, let me just talk in general. There is a suspicion in this country about Christianity in general, about how people live their lives, that they say they're Christians, but they don't actually do it. The way that we behave before and after the service and during the service to us, it feels that we're applying our Christianity and our experiences to live like we say we do.
Yeah, amen. If you've been around me much, you know that my kind of constant refrain is that we would be the salt and the light. And the salt and the light doesn't stay here. The whole point of those stories is that they go out. They season the land. They a city on a hill, right? That's going to be the verse for Praise Camp. That we go out and the way we live our lives in the everyday world is really the testimony to what a church is and who they are. Yeah. What other ways are things that we do that provide a symbol of how we build up and bolster our internal community?
I think we have a really terrific deacons group. And I know when my parents were deacons, they were constantly, sending cards or making phone calls. And I do think also the prayer list that goes out every Thursday, so that people can know what's going on. That's helpful for me to kind of keep in touch with people that I don't really know that well, and I wouldn't have heard about if I didn't have those avenues. And so for me, that really bolsters our internal community.
Yeah. Our deacons, they're tasked with the care and prayer of the church. That's what I always tell them. I want them to be our care and prayer people. And they are faithful to it. What you don't know, or might not know, is that the first thing they do when they gather for a meeting is they go to the sanctuary, they sit in their normal seats, and they pray over the people of this congregation as they imagine them sitting around them. And so your deacon in your section is praying for you, whether you realize that or not, on a regular basis, and staying in touch with you, and communicating that they are going to keep caring for you. That is a great symbol. And there are lots of people sitting in this room who are deacons, whether they let me call them a deacon or not. Kathy's one of them. Yeah, Carolyn.
On the internal, we have the youth ministry, which is really great. The Sunday schools, young adults, child care, pastoral care, Sunday potluck,
Yeah.
the monthly potluck. It's a great time when people get together, and the fellowship time, just like we have at 10 o'clock every Sunday.
Right. We do these things on a regular, practiced basis because they're tried and true methods for the history of the church, right? Educations, formation opportunities, fellowship opportunities, opportunities to put you all around a table and give you food and watch what happens. We had a wonderful time at Shazia's house on Friday night, and the people that were there all left feeling filled both with food and spiritually, right? I had a campus minister used to say we hosted lunches, and he would say, we hope that you leave with full hearts and full tummies. And I'm pretty sure that that's what happened on Friday night at Shazia's house. It's important work. It's important work. Yeah, Jeff.
We talked about group singing. Especially, I think, after communion, when they sing, blessed be the tie that binds.
Jack said group singing, and particularly right after communion when we sing blessed be the tie that binds, right? This thing that I inherited when I got here. You all were doing it before I got here, and we keep doing it. Because it matters when we join our voices together. Dietrich Bonhoeffer would say that group singing is itself a theological statement about the unity of a church. In fact, he was interesting. He thought all churches ought to sing in unison and not in harmony in order to make that symbol even stronger. Having said that, Dietrich Bonhoeffer also had a love for Negro spirituals, which are never sung in unison, always in multiple part harmonies with dissonance and all kinds of great things. But this idea of group singing, something churches don't give up. You know how good it is? I'll speak for Michelle and Shazi and myself. When we're at the front of the church and we hear you singing back to us, and not just our own voices. Oh, it feels good. Yeah. John.
One of the other things, maybe from a more technical side, but what we've done with the live stream in the last year to bring church to the people that can't get to the sanctuary, that's huge.
Yeah, the live stream, you wouldn't believe the number of people who use the live stream because they're either homebound now, But now with the new system, they get to see you. And you wouldn't believe the number of people I go visit who are homebound and say, oh, it feels so good when I get to see, so-and-so out in the congregation. Like they get to be a part of it. Yeah. It's a huge thing. It is. Yeah. And also it creates an opportunity. For instance, Reyes and Sarah had guests here and someone who was a part of their wedding, visiting from out of town, stationed in Kentucky right now, Fort Knox. And she said, I really like this kind of idea of doing this hymn series. I think I'm going to watch it all summer long. Mm-hmm. Just gives them a chance to connect with us in a new way. Yeah, Michelle.
Just to kind of piggyback by what John said with the live stream too, because we have like Karen and Steven that moved away, and they still watch every Sunday. And Karen even reaches out like around Christmas Eve, will make a comment about it. So even the folks that move away from here, they can still feel connected to us. And even like you mentioned with Ryan and Amanda earlier, they're still part of our family, and they're still made to feel just as important. And I think that's a huge aspect of what sets us apart, at least from my experience with, churches elsewhere. So.
Okay, good. Kristen.
I think there's something to be said for us bolstering in a multi-generational capacity. People don't understand how important that is, but also where else do people outside of their family get to have the 90-plus-year-olds interacting with the under 1-year-olds? And I think especially at the end of the service when kids come in from a nursery and things like that, and the kids want to see adults that they love so much, and adults get to interact with these little kids that they've grown a relationship to. And I think that organically bolsters our internal community.
Yeah. The biggest challenge I have with the emergent church, which is the movement where these churches are emerging in coffee houses and bars and using them on Sunday mornings for their worship or whatever, is that to me, demographically, it looks like the splintering of the church because of the ages they're targeting. There is no one that they could look up to for wisdom because of age and experience in life. Because it's mostly target, and they'll literally build the church based on it. We're aiming for a 30 to 42 year demographic. Right? We're different. We are intergenerational. If you don't think that matters, I'll give you our exchange student Mai's email address, because she and Pick are exchanging emails after she's gone home. She still texts me and asks for the link to the service every week. I don't think it's because she wants to listen to me preach. She wants to see Pitt. Gary.
To underline those two comments you both just made, not only intergenerational, but or multi-theological. And I think those things, while they may or may not go together, that new stratification of the modern church makes people not only the same age, but the same political view, the same theological view. So the only people you talk to deeply look and sound just like you, right, which isn't what we have.
Yeah, thank you. The kind of variety we see in our own theological bents, our own political beliefs that happen in this context. A lot of churches have become echo chambers, and I just don't think Jesus ever meant for that to happen. We grow by being in conversation with people who don't see everything eye to eye with us, by being in a relationship with them. You all know I spent a little time with Kent Ingram, former pastor at First United Methodist, about a week and a half ago. And, downtown churches are similar in this respect. A lot of them share this. And he would say, he was telling me, like, get me caught up on what's happening over there and some of the stuff. And he was saying, he used this phrase that I appreciated. Downtown churches, when done the way their DNA is kind of designed them to be, they hold a broad middle. They don't swing to extremes on either side. They hold space for people to be themselves and to still be part of community. And it's like family. Remember that song by Casey Musgraves? Family is family. You don't get to pick them. It might drive you crazy. I don't remember the rest of it goes. But the idea is that you when you're family, everyone's welcome. It doesn't matter if they drink too much liquor, or they have too much wicker. That's the lines. This image of like they might drive you crazy, but at the end of the day, they're your family, right? Yeah, Chelsea.
So we're sitting in service, and we hadn't really been telling anyone about the house that we closed on. And then we hear Pastor Dan say our names, and we're like, what? What's happening? And it was one of those experiences of family tells family your business. But it was such like because at first we're like, oh, did something wrong? Did something happen? And he says, good luck with everything. And we're like, oh, okay. And it's just one of those grapevine things. And yes, family does that, but it also goes to show that if family didn't care about you, why would they put an effort in communicating those things with one another? So it was just a really nice. We didn't tell you that, Pastor Dan. How'd you find out?
I have eyes and ears everywhere. Jack.
One of the things I think that helps with community is the ability of the older people to relinquish some control in the church and have younger people step up and take some control in the church too. Because we're running out of energy. They still got it.
A lot of our younger people are running out of energy too. It's a different era. Both parents working, raising kids, home. Yeah. We share it. Our young people need your wisdom. They need you to stay engaged. Don't bail out on them. And young people, our older people, do need some help letting some things go. They need to be given permission. They don't want to fail the church either. They don't want it to go down on their watch. Takes all of us. Right? Again, that's what makes us a powerful internal community. Okay. Are there comments on there? I'm seeing stuff pop up.
I've gotten some likes.
Okay.
But no comments.
Okay. Good. Well, it means somebody's watching. You guys are getting liked. We're generating YouTube following. That's what we're doing right now. Okay. Switching gears now. Okay. We've patted ourselves on the back thoroughly. Feels good. I like that. We do a lot of those things well. We're not being inauthentic with anything we just said. What are 3 things we do as a church body to express our care for our external community? Why does your table choose to point at those 3 things as symbols of our care for our external community? Jane.
What I like most is what we do for Columbia Elementary School. I drive children to school and back home now, that's my job. And I have a little girl who is autistic that goes to Columbia. And I had a little boy who went to Columbia, but his mother went to Pueblo. And those kids, and the teachers, they appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to find out how many homeless kids were there.
Right.
The little girl I drive, I don't think they have much of anything. They are in an apartment, but it's making ends meet, and they really do appreciate all.
Yeah, that is a rather organic opportunity that kind of came up, and because we were faithful with little, they've entrusted us with much. We were faithful with a book fair, and we're now the go-to organization they look to help partner for the needs of their internal community. You talk about how you express care for an external community, you help them take care of their internal community. I always say to residents when they get to me, the best way to love on parents is to love on their kids. Right? So what we do in our wider community, Columbia Elementary, La Puente, other places outside of us that have been historic, family promise, they might come stay with us, but they're their own external community, right? We spend our energy serving others as a way of demonstrating what we're about as an internal community. What other ways have we demonstrated external? Sorry, let me jump to Michelle.
Yeah. I was going to say, especially when visitors come in, that's always impacted me a lot, just how visitors are cared for. We have the welcome packets, and you greet them personally as often as you can. I don't think I've ever seen a new visitor come in that you haven't greeted. And we have a lot of people that just manage to make their way into the church, and that makes a huge impact. And that's how things, that's how word spreads. You know, that's how things kind of get out into the community more, just how welcomed they are. Because some people will come into a church not being a part of that body of faith, quote unquote, and they wouldn't feel welcome in a lot of cases. And that's exactly the opposite of what folks do here, and that's very far reaching.
Yeah, how we receive guests is important, right? We have a guest who's been coming for a few weeks now, and he said on the card when he filled it out, said, "How did you find us?" Do you remember what he said, Betty Lee?
Map.
Google Maps.
Oh.
Went on Google Maps, said Baptist churches, and found the one that was close to him.
I found you on the internet.
So,
Good thing we
yeah,
got changed.
Jane found something. Jane Episcopalian by background, correct?
My youth.
Oh, your youth. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I chose.
I was Southern Baptist in my youth, so we're all converting still. It's all right.
Yeah, but I picked you as the first one to come to because I liked that it was downtown. I didn't know anything about Colorado Springs. And I also liked, I'm really like into old stuff and architecture and stuff. And I just thought, wow, I gotta go see this church. So I came down here, it's actually on January 1st of 2017. And there was hardly anybody here, and I thought, wow, this is a very big church. And I thought, oh, it is a holiday.
Yeah.
But I came for the fellowship, and I came and sat down here and got a little food or something. And Roy Buckner, Gardner. Roy Buckner was my father-in-law. Gardner came up to me, and he said, oh, I haven't seen you here before, and we chatted and everything. And then I went in and listened to the sermon and everything. And I left here, and I thought, I'm going to try them again next week, but I don't think I'm going to go to any of these others. And I came here the second week, and I think it was the third week I told you I wanted to become a member because I didn't even go to any of the others.
Yeah.
This was the place.
Perfect.
The beautiful building, yes, but the people more.
There you go. There's St. Betty's stretching to see what happens now. Okay. Kurt.
Every Sunday when I drive in, I see something. You matter.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you see. That's great.
Good. Yep. Good. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Don.
I don't know if all of you understand. You've mentioned La Puente, but I don't know if you guys know how much the stuff that we do for them matters to them. I mean, I'm the one who gets the delight of taking things down and delivering them. And believe me, it's appreciated. It makes a difference.
Good.
And that's part of a really larger community.
Good.
And it's part of one of the poorest parts of the United States, the San Luis Valley.
This
The
backpack
significant
program
mission
that they're doing, that's new, right?
there. What?
That backpack?
Oh, that's not it.
Is that a new one?
That's
a new
Columbia.
one. That's
Oh, it
Columbia.
is Columbia.
How wonderful, we have so many, we're like, who's that?
Anyway, thank you all for what you do for down there, because it really, truly does make a difference.
Okay, Don.
I was gonna say that something that we do to express our care for the external community would also be through our giving, like collecting special offerings for whether it's like $100 sharing or other.
Don said giving, what we collect special offerings for. You might not know this, but I get an annual report from the denomination every year, and it's rare that we're not in the top 3 or 4 for all the special offerings through American Baptist Giving for our region. We're one of the 3 or 4 top churches every time for each of the special offerings, and that doesn't include what we give to particular missionaries, to other organizations like Family Promise. And so there's a lot of ways in which the money we give actually helps support a lot of these other areas too. Yeah. What other? Lori?
So we did mention live streaming in context of how to boost our internal community, but I do think the live stream has the capacity and the ability to boost the external community. People who maybe don't want to go to church every Sunday while they're searching might be finding and more, or I mean, they don't ever really maybe want to go anywhere on Sundays, but can watch it from home. So I think the live stream is pretty important externally as well. I also really appreciate how very open we are with our vacation Bible school, if you will. And I mean, Sierra and her family are a great example of that. They didn't come here. I have known a number of churches where it's really just the kids, and it's only the kids of the members of that church are encouraged to attend. It hasn't been open. So I think that's a great opportunity to bring families in who might not otherwise have something for their kids to do that summer, religiously based or not.
Yeah.
So I think I love that we are inviting the greater community to come to the kids programs.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you do a really good job of getting kids to come this year, and they raise enough money, the rumor is I not only get a pie in the face, but it's going to have glitter on it.
Yeah.
So that ends on, see, pie in the face is what, July 11th? My resignation will be tendered on the afternoon. Myra, you had your hand up a few times.
Dan, going back, and yes, I'm kind of giving kudos, but I was just sort of thinking along 3 lines. One, with Gary being in his Sunday school class, and I know all of you have met the gentleman Jonathan, who is in our Sunday school class. I can't believe what, not only is Gary a wonderful Sunday school teacher, but his care and Charlene and Kurt with Jonathan. I just sometimes sit back and I'm like, you brought him that this morning, you know, whether it be food or taking him on a drive, and Gary acknowledging, he'll say something and I look at him and go, what? And Gary pulls something from what Jonathan said that applies right to or teaches me a lesson. So that's one. And then second of all, and I don't even see her, but I don't know how much of the rest of you, but you and Amelia, our staff, I can't even tell you how much she helps outreach and has not only helped put info out for us, but is the one who started us with Colorado Springs, I Love You. I didn't know anything about it, and she threw it out to me, and now we're involved with them. And Steele Elementary calling us and saying, hey, we're doing this, and then you passing on other things that we can do. And then last but not least, me being me, occasionally I'm like, why are there not more people on outreach doing what they need to do? But what I found is the numbers on outreach don't matter, because every single time one of us, I call and say, hey, can you do this? I get a yes. So that's just so good of this community.
Yeah. Caroline.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about Jonathan. Kurt and Charlene, they're in our class, and they have taken John under their wing. They have Bible study every week. They have given him comfort. They have helped him all the way that they can. You know, about the same word for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, just
it's been very good.
Yeah. Good. Okay, Jack.
The community connections like our guitarist this morning.
Yeah. Wider community connection. We had a group of 6 guitarists here today, none of whom attend, right? Bring with them people that want to see them play, get to know a little bit about us in the process. Whether that goes anywhere or leads to new members isn't necessarily the point, but it becomes a touch point for a wider community member to say, oh yeah, we played there once. They were so nice to us and so welcoming, and and really enjoyed getting to know them. Those become critical touch points. I'm going to share another one with you that I'm very excited about. What's that?
One more thing. I walked past them as they were leaving. They were kind of huddled up outside the door, and I overheard what they said. This isn't something they've done before. Okay. And they were immediately, like, 3 of them were like, hey, let's talk to our parents' churches and see if they want us to come. Like, it may become a thing for them. I'm doing this.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. And that's the point, right? Christian service is not about what we get out. It's nice because it does make us feel good, but it's not the point. Unconditional love, selfless service is about how it helps somebody else without any expectation of return for ourselves. Right? That's the point. This new neighborhood that's developing around us, the number of apartments, I can't wait for Ryan and Amanda to get back and drive them around and see what they say. They've been gone while this has been going up. See what they say. This new neighborhood is moving in around us. And it is challenging to figure out what's the right way to reach out to them. One of the ways, the vision I've been casting this whole year, and we're living into step by step faithfully, and so I give you all the credit for this. One of the ways is we're trying to find ways, right, to turn our building into the instrument it was intended to be. To invite our neighbors in and to use our space. We can't become everything to everyone, we know that. But we can become something. And we're trying to become a type of community center for these neighbors. We now have children gathering weekly, every morning, all day long, for that camp upstairs that meets in the corner where the choir room used to be. Richard and James and Tony Meehan were here all weekend cleaning out office space for Southern Colorado Psychotherapy to take in and expand their services, mental health services coming out of our building. We're still in conversations with First Christian about what their future holds, but even if they don't come, we're going to still live into this vision somehow. And more recently, the one that I'm really excited about is we've been reached out to by an organization called Fever. And what Fever does is they try to bring classical music to the masses, make it accessible. And so they bring in local artists, and they usually build it around a theme. Amy Winehouse, Adele, or somebody, Beatles, something that kind of is more attractional for everyday folks. And they host 2 concerts, and what they do is they illumine the whole room with thousands of LED candles. And so they make it really this kind of beautiful ambiance. They've approached us and they want to start hosting concerts in our building. So once a month, starting in September, we're going to host on one night 2 concerts, and it's going to bring people into our house who have no intent of going to church that night. Right?
Will they be held right in the sanctuary?
They'll be in the sanctuary. The concerts will all be in the sanctuary. They'll come in, they'll get a feel for our space, and it's an easy way to tip your toe in the water without having to show up to worship. They're just coming for a concert, but man, the kind of church that does this kind of thing, maybe that's the kind of church I want to be about. And even if they don't, we add value to our wider community by simply being the kind of space that lets music have a place downtown. This is the vision of what I mean when I talk about external community and how we'll be of service to them. We know we can't do everything. We can do some things, and we can do them well. And so what we do and the intent with which we do it is going to matter as we move ahead. There's a third question on your table that I would like to spend just our last few minutes on. The question is, where do we have gaps? This is the harder one, right? We've been constructive, building up. Now we've got to do a little critical work on ourselves. Where are the gaps as it relates to our internal community?
Our young adult class.
Our young adults class.
Youngish.
This is the funny part. I feel like I have to go through this every time. I'm like, none of us that you're labeling as young feel that young anymore. But we understand in relation. We are. a young adult Sunday school class. What would that look like? What would it be built around? How would you organize it in a way that's compelling enough to draw our young families on a regular basis? Or is what's happening in the greeting area valid for young families who are stretched so thin all the time, where they get to gather and build each other up for a little while? Is there some combination of things that can reach both areas? Young adults in the room, what do you think? Chelsea?
So I've had lots of thoughts about this. I was talking to the other people in the youngish group about being the future of the church and the weight that comes with. And I don't think if we can get them here, they're not going to go anywhere. All that wonderful stuff we were talking about, all those things we do, once you're here, it hooks you. I think the problem is that we live in a world where a lot of people are stressed, they're busy. Colorado Springs now takes 3.5 incomes to pay your rent.
Oh dear.
Yep.
So, sorry. I think that I think our youth grew, and then Pastor Katie came in and formed them. I think we need to focus on getting people here, and then having okay, now we have the demand, let's supply a form for this group of people. I think just focusing on how do we get them in the door, how do we have them consistently, because this youngish hangout, that's fairly recent, but we've been coming and mingling, and then we realized, oh, we need to have a space to be together in this way. So my concern is that so many people here in this room were invited by someone else, but all of us are stuck into our own routine. So unless we step out of what we would normally do on a Monday and go into an area where we can be examples of his hands and feet and show them, like, look how at peace I am. Don't you want to feel this peace of Jesus' love? You should come to my church. It's so nice. But if we're just going to work, seeing the same people, going home, seeing our families, and then coming here on Sunday, how are we doing that? I don't know much about scripture. I don't feel comfortable having in-depth discussions about God with people because I just don't have enough ammo in my brain yet. But I can talk to them at no end about the peace he gives me and the community I feel at my church. Those are the things I'm strong at. But I think that if people here, like the deacons, would take a table downtown and put a sign in front of it, let's chat about God. Or do you have any questions I can answer for you? I follow this gentleman who goes to college campuses. He's been doing it for 40 years. And he's open to anything. And sometimes they're ugly to him. They just harass him. And he just so patiently stands there and explains them okay, well, the passage you're giving me is from this context, and this is what's going on in the time of Jesus. And so it's not that he's saying women can't be preaching. He's saying that women who are uneducated shouldn't be preaching. So I think that if some of the people who are in their regular routine, but they're so wonderful, hearing about the gentleman that runs the Sunday school class, and you can give him anything and he'll turn it to be all right, let's support this scripture or talk about God in this way. That's who we need on the streets, literally just being hey, you want to come talk to me? We would never meet otherwise, but I have a great church you should join.
Sounds like she's volunteering herself to be on the evangelism committee.
Right?
I think she's already
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what that means. Michelle.
I think on the topic of our internal community with the kind of younger adults group too, I think having additional ways to fellowship would be beneficial as well, because like Chelsea said, we all have our schedules. I know for me, a lot of the time I can't go to the additional things. So sometimes if we have ways that we can do additional fellowships, even whether it be organizing a Zoom meeting or having I think a community message board on the website, a digital message board that people inside and outside can offer if they want to have a group, if they want to have a Bible study, if they want to have just an open forum discussion, something like that. It could be an additional way for folks to come together without having to wait until the next Sunday, because we may forget about those things, or we may not have the opportunity to talk to each other about it, and having to hunt down people's emails is also hard in a lot of senses because we have a lot of folks. So I think just offering that additional communication form or that opportunity would help kind of ingrain those folks a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the
to the
communication piece is big, right?
Mhm.
How do you keep people informed? We had that little bit earlier, is this backpack thing with Lapunte? No, that's that, that. It's that. We're constantly fighting this battle of what's being heard, what's cutting through the noise. How do you begin to get the communication in the right way to the right ears in the manner you intended, right? That's a challenging thing to figure out. But you're right, and depending on what a particular demographic is looking for, you have to communicate that differently, right? How some of us read the sign on the side of the building is different than how some others of us might read it, right? Gary.
And sorry, that's my phone all the way across the room.
The second you started talking.
Everybody with me.
Maybe welcoming.
In a broader context, the opportunity is maybe some of those newer style, more stratified churches we were talking about earlier, who in reality are Southern Baptist churches in disguise, have done such a nice job of positioning themselves as something maybe different than they are. I mean that semi-sarcastically. But we, with the Big First Baptist, we are polarizing both in a great way, but potentially in a misunderstood way. And I love that it says First Baptist, because it means, what Baptist really means. But how do we add to that to people who may not read past the words? So I think that's an opportunity in this what we need to do thing.
Yeah.
And it fits in the communication.
Yeah, Ben.
I was thinking about an external gap and thinking about the positioning of the church in Colorado Springs and what that means for the military community. So a lot of people here are temporarily in and out. And I'm not sure yet how the church is kind of involved. I know internally we support the several people who have come and gone, some are out, and we have taken care of our internal people who happen to be in the military. But when I think externally, even the visibility with maybe the campuses, so we have a couple military bases, the Air Force base, is there ways to even have the materials for these people are new here, this place that's welcoming to them to worship. And I think a small subset of that community that are African or Cameroonian. There's a large Cameroonian military place here, and that we happen to be involved with because we have been part of that. And that is such a huge gap in trying to be involved with, and we're trying to see how can we be, as a family, trying to put that group together so there's some sense of something happening. But if you think about it even widely, I think that's a big opportunity for the church to be involved in.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, we had a young couple visit today. They sat back around where Pick sits, and they've been here 5 days. And they're stationed at Fort Carson. And they're from Tennessee originally. And so they're looking for, a place to come worship and have that community. And they're not the only ones. We've got Jay in the back who's helping run Space Force, and we've got Jay who works we've got a lot of Jays, it just occurred to me. Jay who works at the Air Force Academy, and we've got retired military in our presence, right? And so there's a lot of ways in which this church had a strong history of being connected in a different era with military bases. And it may be time to really consider how we would formalize and make that a more effective way of serving others. Yeah.
I think as a young person-ish, I think sometimes when I look at churches that my other friends go to, I feel like there's more resources, like for families. There's parenting classes. There is more like weekly, like one of the churches my friends goes to, they do monthly date nights. So like the church hosts the kids and the parents can go on date nights, and like there's more, again, there's more classes centered around parenting, because kind of like Chelsea was saying, like we've got both parents have jobs, we have soccer practice, we have, all these different things. Sometimes you don't have time to do another thing, but I think if there's something that's like, how is this going to support me? I'm more likely to show up, if that makes sense. Like, how is this going to help revive me as a parent? Even like a young adult, like in marriage, like there's marriage classes my friends are going to at other churches, and I feel like those are some resources that I feel like could be helpful. And I don't know what that looks like in our church, but I feel like that's been a missing for me when I'm looking at my friends going to church. I'm like, oh man, I wish our church had parenting classes.
I wish we had date nights.
Yeah,
right.
like date nights.
To drop off all 3 kids and be like, I know they're safe.
I mean, it makes me be like, I asked her, I was like, can I go to your church's date night? Like, seriously. I was like, that sounds awesome. Like, I would go to that. So, but it's like, how are we drawing in, like, that younger crowd? Like, because I want that, so.
That's absolutely a gap.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Having tried to start a young couples class many years ago, one of the things I noticed is if you have an event that starts at 9 with kids, they get here at 9:30.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I thought might be interesting just to have something that's not necessarily directed as a Sunday school class, but something that's like a parents' forum that meets upstairs in the coffee area, and people put their kids in Sunday school and come and talk.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we have this opportunity, and what we're seeing, right, is it's always surprising. I always say this, and no one ever believes me until it happens, and everyone goes, who are all those folks? I said, our church really, I don't know how you guys do it, but you memo it, so half of you show up one Sunday, and the other half show up the next Sunday. And it's like the two shall never meet. And then one Sunday of summer, you all show up on the same Sunday. We have like 180 people here on a random August Sunday. It's not even Easter or anything. And I'm like, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You are all here. There are all these young families. But this is what I hear from our younger families with kids in elementary and in even middle school and high school. This kind of conversation around, what if we had some kind of parenting class? It'd be nice just to have other people around who are going through some of the same stuff to try and help figure it out together, And some of our parents are really going through some stuff. It's not easy. It's a wild new world right now. And we live in a big city, and they have access to the world at their fingertips all the time. All the time. It changes the nature of it all, right? Yeah. Let's do 2 more comments, and then if we're kind of winding down, I'm going to close this in prayer and keep my end of this bargain. Chelsea, I saw your hand go up, so what was your thought there?
I don't know how this is going to split the room.
Good start. This is First Baptist for you. Hello, everybody. We don't endorse political candidates at Baptist Church.
So I had an instinctive thought when we were talking about La Puente, and he was saying that he gets to drive them down and see the joy in their face. And I thought, why aren't we recording that and sharing it? And keep in mind, I understand the duality. We are not trying to use this thing for our own benefit. We are doing this as an act for him, like we're just taking care of our brothers and sisters in Christ. But I made a sheet music tour commercial for my job, and in 2 days it had 200 views of people who've never shopped with us before. And if we just recorded what we're doing and put it out, or even if we did ads, like I said, I don't know how many people, but I have seen ads for other churches, and that is a way to get to the most people coming in here, especially the younger people who are constantly on their phones. It's
well, there's the gap. What you're alluding to, Chelsea, the gap is we have no social media presence.
Yes.
And we know that that's an active avenue for most people who have a cell phone in their pocket.
Like if we had an ad, 30 seconds, car pulls up, kids jump out, you come up and talk to me like, where are you guys going tonight? Oh my gosh, it's been a month since we've been kids free.
She's already playing it all out.
And that's it, and it's just saying like, need a safe place to drop your kids
Are you
tonight and
recording
regain
her
your
right
sanity.
Yeah, who's recording this?
But I don't ever want it to be like a business that we're, trying to promote. I'm just, if we don't show people what we're capable of and what we're doing, they'll never know. So.
Well, you can sing backtrack too, so that'd be good.
Yeah, you do the singing, I'll direct.
Lori, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, switching gears. Back to live stream. I don't know how feasible this is, but to have maybe closed captioning.
Yeah.
This is not my original idea. I heard this from another church member, or even a signer. But some closed captioning. I know, for example, my parents haven't been able to come to church for a while, and they don't always pick up on the live stream, and so they'll ask us, and like, what was he saying?
Yeah.
And so if
this is a simple fix, and we should figure this out because YouTube does this for you. AI fixes this.
Yep.
I mean, there's some option you can turn on. We just got to find it.
I'll add it to my list for next week.
So maybe solved very soon.
Yeah.
Gap. Look, we just did it, guys. We solved the problem. It took us an hour of group think, and we got there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna close this by casting this vision. Okay, in the quarter ahead, every meeting that you attend with your ministry team or teams ought to start with the word community. What is our responsibility? What is our part in serving our internal community? And what is ours to think about as it relates to our external community? And if it's a good idea and it's not your team's responsibility, that doesn't mean it has to stop right there. Look around this room. I made you sit together all day for a reason. We are all on the same page. We all want the same thing for this church. We got to work together to achieve it. So in the month to come, the 2 months to come, the quarter, keep thinking about community. We've identified some serious gaps. We know. Another gap I would say is we've got to make sure we have something really lined up for our youth come fall. That's on the forefront of my mind all the time right now. It's going to take some real desire, effort, and thought to make it happen. So as we continue to move in this direction together, keep coming back to this. What is our team's role? What's our responsibility as it relates to both our internal and external communities, okay? And then the next quarterly meeting we have, and I say, what did we cover last time? Sierra's going to be the first one that says, community.
Date night.
Date night. You're going to say it now. I know you will.
She's going to keep repeating it like day night. Don't forget.
Okay. On that note, I have a date with a long drive to Wyoming, so I'm going to say a blessing. Jay.
I just wanted to add one thing real quick, and that is don't keep your ideas in the silo. Funnel them up. The EC needs those ideas. We're the resource folks. So as we get ideas, we can start to see what we've got that can make that come alive.
Good point. Thank you, Jim. That's a better way to close it. Let me offer a closing prayer, and we'll head our different directions. God, I give you thanks for the wonderful amount of energy, thought, and care that has been shared today. And I give you thanks that we get to serve in such a lovely and loving community, in such a lovely place, in a beautiful part of the world. So many blessings that we get to be a part of, God, and so we give you thanks for that. Help us to know the way forward. Be a lamp unto our feet, and a light unto our path, and help us to find a way as a church to reach out to those who need a place just like ours. Guide us, God, in this journey together. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.